Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Before we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements. First, please consider checking out the new upcoming V5 book, Sabbat the Schism. Not only does it delve into the history and lore of the sect, it opens up multiple role-playing options for fans of the game, including new playable clans, elder level powers, and much more. You can find a preview of Sabbat the Schism in the link below. Second, I'd like to thank RS Experiments, aka Mark, our local musical talent, for graciously providing the custom music you've been enjoying so far, including our awesome main theme song called Haven Dweller. If you enjoy any of the music used during the stream and you'd like to hear more, you can find a full library of Mark's work by clicking the link below to RS Experiments' SoundCloud page. Lastly, if you enjoy tonight's session and you'd like to see more, be sure to follow both our channels. You can catch us live most Sundays at 7 p.m. CET by tuning in to twitch.tv/RSA Games, or check out all our recorded sessions at RSA Games on YouTube. Links below. Remember to like, subscribe, and be sure to leave us feedback and suggestions in the comments below. We hope you enjoy the session, and without further ado, let us delve into the world of darkness in tonight's episode of Vampire the Masquerade Beyond Armageddon. Welcome back. So, we rejoin the pack as the doors close and Cecil turns to all of his packmates, save for Serena, who stand around him, and with his hands shaking, he asks, "I have something for the pain. This is a bit more
No.
painful than the shit I've done to myself."
Shadows are cold, but I don't usually carry such of drugs with myself.
Just try something, please.
Yeah, I'll just cast Mask of Shadows on him.
Mm-hmm.
Just point where it hurts and I'll move it.
Cecil just moves his arms forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you all basically see shadows move from the corners of the room and sort of enclose around Cecil. And eventually both his arms are encased in this pitch black darkness. And Cecil seems to really focus on it. I'm not sure what they did there, but... Message understood. Is everyone okay?
Yeah. Serena is there, but
She's what?
she's with Vykos. And I'm in
Cecil
no
immediately
fucking
tries
position,
to...
nor are you, to argue against Priscus. May I remind you?
Fine. If she gets hurt, I'm holding you
She
accountable.
shouldn't. She shouldn't, just because Vykos could also follow the Code of Milan.
Yeah, should. Never been known to follow rules, have they?
I'm not this old to know, but
Probably should have changed my face before I got here.
if his child's blood or whatever, if their blood is in you, technically, they would know. So what's the point?
I suppose, but the face is added insult. I didn't just take the blood. And he sort of gestures to the face.
That's fucking awkward.
Is his daddy's skin?
Do you ask that out loud? With those terms?
Is it your daddy's skin?
Oh. Larry?
Cecil just very slowly turns to Larry and says, "No. A loss of control entails that I would have to escape. No one knew he was dead, so I left using his face. It was a while until they figured out. Managed to keep the body preserved long enough to bring it close to what at the time was my domain. Buried right near Hollywood until Abrams took over. Then I lost access to it. Had to sneak in there to get the body back."
Yeah. At least it went not as bad as it could have. You are still up and kicking. I am still up and kicking.
Yeah.
And they weren't really that pissed because Freya wasn't invited.
Speaking of which,
Mm-hmm.
I hope you, and Cecil sort of gestures at Freya, I hope you now remember that you owe us. We took a risk bringing you along.
Okay, I will really try to do my best.
Good. Good. Jack, you can take the shadows away.
Yep. I remove them.
Mm-hmm.
Come to think of it, our pack has a nasty fucking habit of grandsires being a bit harder on their grandchilder.
Blood ties tend to be harsher than most. It is what it is. There's a reason why the vinculum we subject ourselves to in the Sabbat works. It's specifically to shake off shit like this.
Yeah.
Abel,
Doctus?
what did you do to get Vykos's approval? You must have done something. Last person with your general disposition, let's just say they didn't keep their face for very long until it was fixed. They said the wrong things.
Maybe I was just lucky then.
Maybe. I'm just glad both you, Jim, Larry, I'm glad you didn't say the wrong things. Losing more packmates is not something I would be comfortable with right now. Are any of you going back in there soon? So Jack gestures?
Yep.
Yep.
Can I perception empathy, Cecil?
Yep. Go on.
He looks much more... how to say... empathetic. What happened with this motherfucker? He's so deaf?
He's been wiped the floor with.
Free.
Okay. So you can't exactly read thoughts, right? So you don't know what his thought process is. That said, he doesn't seem quite empathetic. He seems more afraid for your own safety. Like concern at the possibility of losing someone.
Actually, he wouldn't seem afraid right now, more concerned, because for
Yeah.
the rest of the night he doesn't have fear.
Yeah, well, concerned, yeah. That's what I meant. Maybe afraid is not the right word. But he looks like genuinely concerned for your safety.
I'll let it slide.
Like you could do anything. But yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on you, Mr. Cecil.
But
That's my job.
does anyone else say they're going in after? No.
I say too.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll also go in.
You also want to go in to meet with Vykos?
Yes, so
Okay.
1 hour with Vykos.
Abel, do you signal?
No, I'm having trouble to, come up with what I want to talk to him about. Let me just think about it.
And as you each signal, Cecil just looks down, seems to process things, and say, well, whatever you do, try to stay on their good side. I know that may seem like an obvious suggestion, but Vykos isn't just a Priscus. There's reputation there. Reputation for not really taking shit from people below or above. They may not be able to do to you what they did to me, but rest assured, if they're of the opinion that you should die, you'll die. Code or no code.
It is the name of the game.
Cecil then turns to Freya and says, what about you? Your loyalties are currently rather shaky. Part of the sect, not part of the sect. All a big question mark.
Well, I can try, at least.
Would you be willing to assist me with some business here in Washington?
Yes, it sounds really nice.
Nice is not the word I'd use. More convenient. We both get to keep an eye on each other.
Okay, so I can do it.
Good. Cecil struggles to get on his feet. And as he moves his joints, you hear sort of this half snapping sound, as if something was blocking the joints and is sort of being cracked out of place. And he stretches a bit, and everything seems to return to normal. Right. Whoever here is not going to spend time asking Vykos for advice on life, you can come with me. I have a few connections I need to establish here. And Cecil turns to go towards the elevator. Who follows?
Nobody follows him. Womp
Abel,
womp.
probably.
I would assume so. Well, Abel follows. Freya, do you follow?
Yes, of course.
Okay. And as Cecil presses the button for the elevator, it seems to flash a few times, and eventually the doors open, and inside is the same man that you saw before. Cecil walks inside, joined by his packmate and the guest they've dragged along, and the doors slowly close. And Larry, Jim, and Jack are left in the room, almost as the doors to Vykos' chamber open, and Vykos seems to sort of clear their lips and pull their tongue back into their mouth and say, "Who's next?"
If none of them show initiative, I'ma be next.
Well, do any of you show initiative other than Jack?
I look at Jack as if I'm impatient, but since he's a higher up, I just look at him.
You can take first turn. Jim stands up and bows.
Okay. And as Jim begins to walk in, the doors close behind him. And we cut to Jim as he... Hold on. Oh, there we go. As he enters the chamber, and Vykos looks him over and says, "Now, why would you need some time with me right now?" "Go on. I gave you an hour. What's it gonna be?"
Only one mere request. I would like to see the Grandsmiths at work. To see it in my own eyes.
Mm. Very well. I can have a few vessels here. Care for a snack in the meantime?
I thank you for your hospitality.
Good. You should. And Vykos does one quick motion, and essentially a spot of the wall that didn't look like anything remarkable sort of flings open, and you see someone who was sort of like scrunched into the wall sort of fall forward and struggle to get on their feet and start walking towards Vykos. So, let us begin. And the next hour, from the outside, basically all of you can hear the screams of someone who isn't Jim. It's someone whose voice you don't recognize. And
It better be Jim.
and after
There is a mini.
an hour, Jim, I'm going to have you roll. You can choose either perception or wits and medicine.
Medicine instead of wits?
No. You can choose either perception or wits, and whatever you choose, add medicine and roll that.
Okay. It is perception plus medicine.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So, after the hour, you manage to see that with vicissitude and Vykos's long and thin nails, they seem to almost pull the flesh as if almost playing a harp, and they manage to get odd shapes from the skin and bone just doing this. And then whenever they sort of slide their hand on the skin, it smooths over almost immediately. It's almost... You've seen Serena work, you've seen Cecil work. Vykos makes their work look amateurish. It's ridiculously smooth. Everything that Vykos does with the flesh responds immediately without any effort, almost. And to your perception, it looks like an absolute work of art. And I'm going to just state here, it's a bit out of character, but this is your clan curse acting up. You are essentially stuck watching this and just in awe of how smooth and how fluid all of these motions are to create these odd alien patterns and shapes. And by the end, this person, despite still being very much alive, is completely static and now resembles sort of essentially an art piece. And after a few moments, Vykos sort of drops their arm around you and says, "Now ain't that beautiful?"
Jim is
Completely
basically
worthless, I might add, but beautiful nonetheless.
Jim tries to speak a word, but he is paralyzed with the excitement and also his curse and what he's seen. As he tries to muffle a word, it just doesn't come from his mouth.
You're that stunned by my work. In that case, Vykos reaches towards the statue and, with a very simple and soft motion seems to pull what used to be the person's hand and now is this sort of warped bone construct, sort of like in a spiral, almost resembling a statue of fire. And with a swift motion separates it from the rest of the sculpture and hands it to you. Again, no function, but sometimes form is to be appreciated for what it is.
Jim grabs the present with 2 hands in a very grateful gesture and bows
Of course.
again in silence.
Of course. Now, run along. I believe your time is up, but, well, just know you've made a name for yourself in my memory. Someone with good taste always stays up here. I might requisition some clothes at some point. Your work is wonderful, especially for one without our talents. But run along. You may bring whoever wants to spend their hour next. Oh, and before you go, may I have your wrist for a moment?
Jim extends his wrist.
Vykos grabs your wrist, and after pulling your sleeve very delicately back, puts their tongue out, and you notice that the tongue has these sort of weird spots on it. You can't really tell what it is from the quickness of the motion. And with a lick on your arm, you feel this sort of grating pain. And once Vykos pulls their head away, you look at your arm and nothing really changed, but you see Vykos's mouth completely covered in blood. And after a few moments, Vykos lets you go and says, I believe I knew someone in your bloodline. I don't particularly hate anyone there. Good to know you're of good stock, though your sire's a cunt.
Jim smiles a bit, bows again, and leaves.
And the rest of you basically see the doors open after an hour, and Jim exits the room carrying this weird little bone sculpture.
Jim looks at Jack and gestures with his neck, like, you can probably go next.
You look very excited. And Jack walks inside.
Mm-hmm.
Jim shows the hand that he was given by Vykos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jim seems very excited about this weird bone sculpture. You can't really tell why.
Which bone was it?
Hand. But it to you it just looks like sort of a swirling massive flames just made out of bone.
I walk inside.
Mm-hmm. As you walk through the doors close behind you, and after a few moments, you notice that Vykos turns away from a sculpture that is now propped up on the side of the room. It didn't used to be there. And turns to you and says, Ah, Mr. Jack. This time without your guest, I see.
Yeah, he's assisting doctors. Rest of business.
I see.
But she should most definitely pay you a visit later.
Good. Well, in that case, what may I do for you with this 1 hour of my time?
I was wondering if you know a teacher for a road or pass or something that's not humanity, but not really kind of bullshit my clan calls path of night.
You definitely seem very eager to get rid of this humane side of yourself. Why?
I'm considering my options because in about 3/4 of 70 something odd years, it shown its problems, and if one might walk up the ranks, humanity is not really a viable option.
Vykos straightens their back and, with a somewhat changed demeanor, approaches Jack and says, "Let me give you a piece of advice that will serve you much, much better than pretty much any path that you could adopt. In fact, if you do choose to adopt a path, this advice will be invaluable." And Vykos leans in, almost invading your personal space, stares you straight in the eyes and says, "Indecisiveness will get you killed. Weighing your options? All well and good. Do it for too long. You won't be long for this world. Action speaks much, much louder than words. Are you willing to take action?"
Yes.
So give me a very quick charisma, and this yes was honest, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so give me a quick charisma and expression.
Mm-hmm.
You okay? After a few moments, Vykos leans away quite abruptly and says, "Very good. You hesitate a little, but I can see the conviction you have in your eyes. Something you'll learn to rely pretty substantially on after we spend a few training sessions together. You'll take to the road well enough."
Which one, if I might?
Will be much easier if I show you in time. But let's discuss the philosophy of it for a few moments. And after about an hour of absolute silence coming from the room, the rest of you see the doors open, and out walks Jack. And Jack, how do you look after having this conversation?
Bit lost in his thoughts, but determined.
Okay, so Jim, Larry, and Serena, you see Jack walking out, lost in his thoughts.
Actually, I might remind you that I think Serena walked out of some other exit because she never walked out of those doors.
Yeah.
So let's keep it as such.
Okay, fair.
Did I get the leak of cheese grater?
No, you didn't need to.
Okay.
There's a reason why she they can smell some of these things, and others they have to take a bit of a closer look. Let's just say.
Yeah, Jack just doesn't even tell Larry he's up. He just goes and sits somewhere.
I will go.
Okay. Larry, you shake your wings a bit, sort of straightening your back. Walk inside. One thing you've noticed this before, but one thing that's worth mentioning. These doors are probably the first doors in a very long time you had the comfort of being able to walk through without hunching. These doors are actually tall
Is
enough for
Vykos
you
big?
to... Hmm?
Is Vykos big?
Not really. Vykos is tall-ish, but not unreasonably tall. Tall like a model, really. Not really like a...
Cecil level tall.
No. She's shorter. Well, they are shorter than Cecil. Not by much, but
180?
they're shorter. But the point is, they're tall within reason. Cecil is unreasonably tall, and you are unreasonably tall by Cecil standards. So it's kind of surprising that these doors accommodate someone of your size, but apparently they do. They've been built to accommodate diverse shapes, apparently.
May I say that you have very nice doors?
Vykos gestures, the doors close behind you, and then says, I've been given weirder compliments. Thank you. So I'm aware you want to ask of me something for this hour.
Yes, indeed.
Do go on.
I believe you already know my backstory and the amnesia part of it.
I know about as
was-
much as you've told your pack.
Of course. I was wondering if you could help me recovering my memories.
Recovering your memories. Well, that very much depends what was done to your mind. But I should warn you, from what I know of your kind, it's very, 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 very difficult to recover anything from before the makeover.
And that's why I am approaching you with this matter.
We can try.
Of course.
Don't expect anything from it, however. It is very difficult to revert a memory loss of the caliber I'm suspecting you have. Especially if the reason why those memories are missing is because whatever held those memories isn't there anymore. But that's a problem we'll solve once we get there. Yes?
Of course.
Good. Pick up a chair. There are a few in that corner. Bring it over here. Take a seat. And I'll begin digging in.
I will do as he says.
You go up to the corner, find a chair that's suitably big, and funnily enough, there is one that's not exactly your size, but accommodates your size enough. You pull the chair more towards the middle of the room, take a seat, and Vykos takes a few steps around, positions themselves behind you, with two fingers sort of kind of puts your wings to the side, and tilts your head backwards and says, "Are you absolutely sure you're ready for this? It will sting a significant amount."
I am.
All right. And as Vykos slides one finger right across your scalp, you feel this absolute searing pain. And I would like you to roll Fortitude. And if you're applying any bonuses to it, obviously apply them. And I will roll for Vykos.
+1 dice from Visoratica.
Yep, I will roll for Vykos.
God of random. Please.
Okay,
Not
so
bad.
you got 1, 2,
3.
3. Yeah.
Larry just dies from bad haircut.
Okay, so Vykos got 1. That's -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So Vykos is not going to deal this as damage. This is just to bypass whatever resistances you have, which you're surprised that despite your reflex enticing you to resist, Vykos' finger cuts through your skin like butter. And your scalp opens up, and all you feel is just this sharp, stinging pain all over your skull as Vykos digs in and starts going through your, well, quite literally going through your mind. And after a few moments, you feel this deafening tap on your skull, and you hear Vykos. "I see the problem."
What is there?
Well, your brain was changed quite a bit. That is to say, well, easier if you see it. And Vykos simply lowers their hand in front of you, and you see a bit of what looks like solidified rock that's sort of shaped like a cut of flesh, and turns it in their hand and says, "So you see how this looks a bit familiar? I believe whatever had your memories was modified by the ritual you went through. That is to say, the memories are completely gone in the conventional way. You might recover them elsewhere. I could look into what could fix this, but for now," and you see the hands disappear from your line of sight, "let's just say that you'll... well, you'll have to do things the hard way. I'll give you a bit of assistance from Washington, but expect that you'll have to do quite a bit of sacrificing once you get back to LA." And with a sort of flick from Vykos' finger, you sort of feel your head release, and almost instinctively you reach up and feel your skull and realize that your head is closed up, like nothing ever happened. Now,
What is this we you talk about?
well, whatever was done to you as a result of the makeover aforementioned, to reverse whatever memory loss happened, you'll either have to collect those memories by gaining bits of your past back, or you'll have to rip those memories out of people who know them. Most likely the person who did this to you holds most of the memories you lost, in one way or another. Either they know about them, or they literally hold those memories, which you'll have to find. Of course, flashbacks can give you enough information to piece things together, but the memories themselves are in the hands of whoever performed this on you. And if you think that one is Strauss, I suppose you'll have to kill Strauss.
Larry just furrows his brows.
Oh, don't worry, it's
Looks
not
into the
as
ground.
hard as it seems. This is just a usurper. We can deal with him very easily. You just have to do most of the work.
Thank you.
Of course. And no being a drama queen, come on, chin up. You're way too big to look so sulky. Now, off you go.
I stand up from the chair, do a head bow, and leave.
Yeah, and as you leave, you sort of hear Vykos smell the air very intensely, the same way she did with Jack. And you hear sort of a comment in muttered breath saying, always hard to detect where you all are from.
When I'm going for the door handle, I stop for a split second and then leave.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you guys see the doors open, and Larry walks out. All of you, to your own knowledge, having had the time with Vykos that you were promised, are sort of left in the room pondering what to do next.
Has anyone got a message from Cecil or from Amalia? Or from Serena?
Well, none of you would have gotten such a thing, but in attempting to contact Cecil, he'll eventually send you a text of an address for you to go to.
How long till sunrise?
You got enough time. About 2 hours. Cecil had already mentioned that your temporary haven for the day has been prepared, so all you need to do is show up, spend the day, and then the following night you'll be able to return to LA.
I thought we'd have like normal TMC 3 days.
You're allowed 3 days if you
Also,
wish.
it's up to our host.
You're allowed 3 days if you wish. It's just you'll be able to make it back to LA the quickest by the start of the following night.
Yeah, I'll just go towards the elevator. Anyone gonna sleep at the haven was prepared already? Because I'm not sure we'll be sleeping here.
Yes. I will accompany you, Jack.
Jim?
I also have no more business here, so let's move out.
I might stay a bit in DC, but that's remain to be seen. Yeah, I'll just call an elevator.
Yeah, you tap the button, and as you wait for the elevator, we'll cut to Serena, who moving back in time a little bit, as the rest of the pack exits the room and the doors close, she regains control of her body and finds herself standing in front of Vykos, who expectantly waits for her to speak.
Well, let me just catch my breath. Not every day one meets such a luminary of Cainite history such as yourself. But, of course, if it wouldn't be too much offense, if there's perhaps any way of I could be of assistance with, as you know, my divinatory skills in exchange for perhaps not torturing my mentor too much.
Oh, I
Especially,
was. Don't you worry about that. I was simply establishing knowledge that he needed to have. A bit of an insult to show up at my haven through my invitation, wearing the face of my childhood he diablerized, with that child's blood giving him the power he uses to impose his will on others.
oh, I see. I mean,
Given how
it's
ruthless I've seen you be, I believe you'd do much the same thing, if not worse.
what I must. I don't particularly, how to say, employ brutality or ruthlessness outside of when it is useful or when it is necessary for research. Otherwise, it just seems to be playing into the very humane juxtaposition that to be inhumane, you need to be monstrous and brutal, because that is the opposite, which is a very basic human understanding of what it means to be not a human.
But when one is so stubbornly afraid, well,
And Serena, by the way, since there are no chairs before the throne, Serena is just going to, because we've previously established that Serena can use her tail as sort of like a makeshift chair to lean back on.
mm-hmm.
She's going to unwrap it and use it as her chair, and also at the same time take the cards out and start shuffling them.
Mm-hmm. Vykos continues, well, when he's so stubbornly afraid, there's not much I can do in the ways of getting him to understand things. So all I did was make sure he was listening loud and clear that blood is not to be thrown around without respect from whence it came. My previous child had the gall to embrace Cecil without my permission, and in turn, after possessing that blood, Cecil decided to share his gifts with you. Now, he was lucky that he picked someone capable, but he attempted multiple times to do that in the past. Our blood is not to be thrown around recklessly. Vicissitude, after all, is a gift. If you share it without much regard from whence it came, you're bound to create mariposas.
Yeah, quite a problematic one, especially considering the knowledge she possessed and her inability to see that alone. She's not going to manage much.
Exactly. So I assume we're both of the same mind that Cecil's decision to impose his teachings on the feeble-minded was a waste of time and a disrespect of the discipline, especially when I so graciously allowed him to keep it after he diablerized the child I chose to have it.
suppose it does come a bit so from the sect in which he was embraced.
Not just that. I suppose the blood coursing through his veins, being part of my bloodline and all that. I suppose some of my attitude did rub off on him, I suppose. But
Well, if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
rude of you to compare me to such a basic life form, but sure. A tree. It'll manage.
I mean, it was allegorical, really. Would fungi be better?
Closer to reality than you might know.
Interesting. And that's where also I'm gonna like roll for cards. I'm going to draw like a certain number of cards based on my like divination roll. And basically however many I roll get successes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 cards I'll be drawing in total. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 successes to interpret. So basically I draw a card. I'm going to make it like in ST chat. But this is basically about his closer to the truth than you might think. So fungi reference. I hope you don't mind me drawing cards. When one has been blessed with the ability to see past things, physical limitations allow you to know. It's a curiosity that one cannot really stifle anymore.
Well, of course, I'll allow you to draw cards, just you could ask. You do have 1 hour of my time. And
Okay, fine.
remember, I'll know everything you know.
Yes, I've already realized that, but I've been living my entire life sort of with that curse. Though I will admit, before gaining dementation, it wasn't really that obvious.
Well, to clarify the fungi comment, imagine vicissitude to be more... I suppose the closest analogy would be infectious. Then learned. One needs to pass on a certain pizzazz that other disciplines don't require. Not just anyone can learn
like
it.
with dementation.
Closer than you might think. Well, there's a reason why we're able to affect the world the way we can. Each clan has its own way of going about things. Of course, some clans are less interesting than others. Some members of history have clearly shown that to be the case. But overall, each clan has its own little trick up their sleeve, right? Ours just happens to be very tied to the flesh. Yours is tied to the mind. Now, you've been given certain allowances, which does not make you unique per se. It just makes you the first in a very long time. And given the fact that we're all somewhat connected that way, I'm able to pull some things from my specific descendants, which now includes you to an extent.
Serena just like has this like look like just like this look just like, and her mind just goes like, oh boys, that is like taking marrying into a bloodline way too fucking literally. That's her thought, and she's just like, I see. Rather ironic then.
Irony, that is close to the word I'd use.
Irony is a curse of all Malkavians.
Not all, just most.
Yeah.
The most interesting, at least.
No, even like my sire wasn't particularly interesting, but it was rather ironic that despite everything he saw around, he thought to find a scientific, mundane explanation to divination things, and yet was doing so bad with ADHD.
Who was your sire?
Told by the name of Willem Timothy, Primogen of London, before the Blitz.
May I? As Vykos takes your wrist, the tongue comes out, and you see, again, these fissures on their tongue. And as they lick your wrist, again, it's this searing pain, but to you it's somewhat familiar. You just allow it to happen, and after a few moments, Vykos lets go of your wrist, completely covered in blood from the chin down. And after a few moments, their eyebrows raise, and they just burst into laughter.
Something funny in the lineage? Is it ironic? I hope it is.
Oh, you have no idea.
I would like to have.
There are a few people responsible for the creation of the Camarilla. Your sire was the descendant of someone very, 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 very involved in the process. The irony of their downfall eventually being brought by one of their own. Oh.
Do you mean to say that one of my ancestors was part of the inner council who formed the Camarilla?
They were a count, yes.
Oh, just another reason for me to be added to the red list. Cool.
Well, sort of. Let's just say that, they ducked in time. Hardestadt took it instead.
Oh, they ducked.
Yeah, you got the message there. There you go.
Nice. Still, could have been a better lineage.
Could
But whatever.
But I'm sure you'll fix that in time. Now, is there any other use of my time you'd like to make,
Of course.
or shall I call this meeting adjourned?
No, absolutely. Regarding the masked assholes.
Mm-hmm.
So, last time, when I've basically, when they tried to make their big escape, and I've basically baited a bunch of them to attack me so that I can keep one of them, or several. Despite the fact that the three other Nagaraja were already, in a frenzy, frenzy, coming at me, when they saw what happened to one of their mates, as I bent them into pieces with dementation.
Impressive trick, by the way.
Yes. I want to develop a few more, but they seemed like, considering the dangers they face, they seemed out of the ordinarily terrified. Is there
Well, to them, from what I've gathered, our discipline is a curse. Your discipline is a curse. A mix of ours, well, that's just doubly cursed. You won't get much information about the chatterlings they raise. Nagaraja They have a way of raising their young, so to speak. Instead of manners, they just teach them violence. And so, you won't get much information by peering into one of their minds unless they're of age.
Hmm.
Fiercely loyal, at least. Given one idea about the
So-
world and nothing else. Well, the problem is, they probably saw you touching that one member of theirs with both of those disciplines as them being corrupted. Not worth saving, so to speak.
So they
Beyond
basically
salvation,
went.
at least.
So basically, they ran away to save their hides.
And no
But-
doubt found their end in the Shadowlands.
So essentially, any vicissitude users they don't like, and
Oh,
they're
they
unlikely to be their
particularly hunt us down.
So technically, vicissitude users are unlikely to be their agents.
For the most part.
Well, knowingly, so to say.
For the most part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they have one or two in their ranks. We are way too useful and indispensable to the world. I'm sure they'd want to take some of us, but bull-headed idiots will always be bull-headed idiots.
Okay, well, it's another enemy then to consider, since I'll probably be pretty high on their list to kill.
Unless you've already been killed, of course.
No, true. Not the first time faking death.
Now, we must really continue this, as time is of the essence, and I'm sure you want to use it wisely.
We weren't told about it. Where would our haven for the night be in your domain?
Within my own haven. To be specific, the floor right below us.
Okay. I'm sure the others also know.
They will. Cecil is aware.
Okay.
The access point is different than when you came in, though. Oh. Serena, you there? Oh no.
Vykos has eaten her.
She
Oh.
fell to the vicissitude.
She did.
Yep. She's frozen just like Cecil.
Eldest has awoken in her.
She has. Frozen in place. Because Vykos apparently did not like her as much as they liked each other as much as Cecil. So, given that break in
Look at those
connection, technical
eyes.
difficulties,
Frozen
etc.,
in fear.
we're going to end the session there. And thank you for fucking up my camera.
She died in
We're going to cut the session there. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you next session. Good night.
Good night.